Hello everyone, welcome back to the Social Club. So we're going to be discussing, obviously, the way the transfer window seems to be going so far. I think, as we all expected, James, the fees were bound to go up. You know, Premier League TV money abounds throughout the league. It was only going to be a matter of time before the big money started to go in. And it was always going to be a lot of the big clubs who were spending it as well. So the question kind of coming to is whether 50 million is the new, let's say 20 million for the sake of argument. And the reason I'm centering this question is because of, let's use Kyle Walker as an example, £50 million, right back moving to Man City, and Swansea reportedly putting a 50 million price tag on Gylfi Sigurdsson, which on the surface seems mental. If you scratch beneath the surface, is it any less mental?
Well, you know, I like scratching beneath the surface, Paul.
Sure, absolutely.
So,
you're a deep guy, James.
Allow me. No. But the way I think about it is like, look, say if Villa got promoted and we were like, right, we want Klein as an example. How much would you be happy to sell him for?
Well, now that I know Kyle Walker's worth 50 million, I'd be like 40 for Klein.
Well, let me put it a different way then. If you were to sell Klein to Villa, how much do you think you'd need for a replacement?
You know what? It's a tremendous question. It depends what you're looking for, I guess. Yeah, it's. The problem is that I don't think Man City help themselves in this regard, and we will be talking Man City with Omar from Citizens Telly, so stay tuned for that on the channel this week. But look at the John Stones thing. He's not worth £50 million in any way, shape or form. Now, you know, we're in a world where Liverpool are shopping in a market, a similar or more expensive market with the Van Dijk, say. I genuinely don't know. It boggles the mind that if Kyle Walker's worth 50, that it's not outside the realms of possibility. You could charge not too dissimilar for a Nathaniel Klein. They're both there or thereabouts in terms of the England setup. I think Walker's a bit more creative. You know, kind of definitely.
He's a bit more dynamic anyway.
Well, neither of them score goals, really. But I think Walker got 5 assists last season in less appearances. Klein's not really his thing, although he does create. He is, you know, he is involved a lot higher up the pitch. You're right, though. I don't know how. I can't get a barometer for this for Liverpool because we don't seem willing to spend money on fullbacks for some reason.
I mean, the wider point of it, from my point of view, is that the reason the prices are so high is because supply is so low of players in certain positions, like centre-backs, like Van Dijk, for example. The quality, the amount of players at that higher quality that can do it physically for 60 games a season, mentally 90 minutes plus, and obviously their attributes on the football pitch. It's so slim now. So we've got less of these players who can do it at the higher level, and we've got more money. So it just turns into an absolute fest of throwing like pounds and dollars about and euros about. I mean, this is kind of what it's created for me. And the kind of question you give me at first, I feel it's a bit. It's a bit of a faux pas in a way. It's like a bit of a fake question. I think this is just like...
Fuck you, James.
But I feel like it's not... This is like the evolution. And it's like the housing bubble. It's like an evolution of the transfer market. It's going up and up and up, and it'll just burst at one point, and it'll all fall down. And like the warnings of that was with Leeds previous in the early 2000s.
I mean, just in terms of without going down the Leeds rabbit hole right now, but I think the point that you made was really interesting there on the Walker stuff, and it's about the physicality and having the physical attributes to do it, because particularly someone like a Man City and a lot of modern football teams and the teams that want to play football, fullbacks are absolutely essential, and you've got to have an engine. And to be fair, this is why, just from the football I watch, watching like a James Milner, people kind of scoff at the Milner thing, but the engine that James Milner's got, he's got the ability to get up and down the pitch all day long, and that's what's required of it. And then getting up and down the pitch is one thing, but then having the ability to do anything, to be able to still kick a football once you've done it 70 yards up and down, a couple of times in the space of 10 minutes, is definitely something that shouldn't be underestimated. And as we say, Pep, the big letdown for Man City to some extent was very much the athleticism of the fullbacks last season. So, I mean, I'm sure they won't care. I'm sure City fans won't give a shit how much money they paid for him. But it is mad, because it's just for me, £50 million should still be a fair old whack of money. And for me, the idea that fullbacks cost this much, and you know, we're not talking about the similar fee step up to what Arsenal are paying for Lacazette, and you know, if you look at like, you know, you're only talking another 20 million could get you. They could be spending 7 on Alexis Sanchez, which is again is absolutely crazy. But let's just move it slightly to the side and go to Sigurdsson, because the physicality thing, you can't throw at Sigurdsson.
Yeah,
there's a guy who consistently, on a good season, he averages about 10 goals, and there or thereabouts a little bit more on a good season with assists, free kicks, etc., etc. Now he's 27 years old, so he's banging his prime. We know he didn't have a great time at Spurs when he got that big move up, as it were. Is this genuinely? Is this one of those things I think that could redefine how silly things are getting? If someone comes in and spends 50 million, if Leicester, as reported, or Everton spend 50 million on that, that's when I think the window's gone a little bit crazy. I
think you're right. I think you're right, to be fair. If Sigurdsson went for 50 million, 40 million, anything across those lines, for me, it's got silly, because then, and I'd go as far as saying that the idea that every player has a transfer value is gone out the window, because it's not a transfer value anymore. A player doesn't have value anymore. It's how much that player is worth to the club. If Sigurdsson went, it'd take them a lot of money, not just a transfer fee, but wages, agents' fees, all of that, bonuses, all of that jazz, and a lot of manpower, bear in mind, when you've not been planning to sell a player in the summer, to get a replacement into the same quality. And that's where I think that it lines up. It's how much value that player has to the club. It's not about the contract. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about the club and their circumstances.
It feels a little bit like this natural evolution of the thing from a couple of seasons ago, with the increase in the TV revenues allowed clubs to hold the ground a bit. So again, we saw it when Chelsea wanted John Stones and Everton went, nah, you're all right, we'll keep him, thanks very much. And we've seen a few examples of that around the league where clubs have gone, well, again, similarly, Everton held on to Lukaku maybe for another season, etc. And they're able to go, no, we're all right, because we can afford to turn down good bids. But this does feel like, because the money's taken another step up, like clubs are going, okay, well, we're just going to test the resolve by going above and beyond. And I think what we're seeing across the league now is exactly what you're saying. This is the world we live in, where the best players, clubs don't want to sell the best players, and now clubs don't need to sell their best players anymore. So you're now left with a situation where if you want to prize those players away, you kind of have to go silly. And again, from Liverpool, we're kind of seeing that with Southampton holding out for Van Dijk, seeing with RB Leipzig holding out for 60 million plus for Naby Keita. There's a guy who got something like 8 goals and 8 assists in his first season in the Bundesliga, and he could go for 60 to 70 million pounds. It's mental.
I think one point also to think about is that football is completely changed since when I was a kid. It's completely changed. So before, you might have had a few sponsors here and there, like, you know, your basic advertising hordes. Now each club has about 20 sponsors for 16 different things that the club does. And the way that clubs make money is completely changed. On top of that, for a lot of the big teams, they've got a rich financial backer. You guys have got Henry, Man City have got the Sheikhs, and it takes it all to a different dimension. So it comes to the point now where you hand over 30 quid, 50 quid for a ticket to the Premier League. That's not even scratching the surface. That's paying someone's wage for the who's behind, like, you know, the turnstiles. That's what's happening now, and it's madness. So there's a proper disconnect between transfers and that market to the paying customer.
It does seem very much like, you know, by the time this window's shut, we're going to be able to get a clearer sense of where the values have settled, because at the minute it does just seem as though there's a number of clubs just throwing money at the problems, and because there's a bit of an arms race going on in the Premier League. Look, you know, there exists the possibility. There's 7 teams, I think, and I definitely count Everton into this, particularly given some of the signings they've made this summer, who could, at the very least, challenge for the Champions League places next season. And you know, you could still have an outlier who comes out. You could see another Leicester, maybe. Probably not, but someone else might throw the hat into the ring a little bit from an outside shout or whatever. So there's those teams at the top. You know, you've got Arsenal and Man United. All of a sudden, you know, Arsenal in particular must be thinking, yikes, you know, we're not used to, what do we do? You know, hang on, we're not in the Champions League, how do we handle this? You know, these clubs all of a sudden have got to make sure that they get those deals over the line. And, you know, we're seeing it with Liverpool, we're seeing it with Manchester City, just going out and being ruthless, buying as many players as they can, in, you know, 2 guys in before the window even opened, etc. But yeah, I don't think we'll see until September how the rest of the league conducts its business, whether we're seeing 20 million become 50 million in terms of players across the board, or is it just the rich clubs at the top end of the league that are just being a bit silly for a bit, and whether it's an isolated to that top end of the league, or whether it's transfer business.
I think the big thing as well is that, like, a lot of clubs don't share data, but it's all about data these days. All about data on players, and there's a lot of what happens behind the scenes that we don't necessarily see as fans, and all the clubs have got their different interpretation of that data, but they've all got the same data, as a sense, from performance and all that kind of thing. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that we don't really think about, and it's like who blinks first. It's like a game of chess in a sense. It's madness, but it's good for us. It's good to watch. I enjoy it.
Well, this is it. You know, whether we, you know, I can't stand the rumours and all that kind of stuff. But let's be honest, when we all play, you know, career modes and footy managers, the best part of those games in the transfer windows is buying players. So seeing these players come in is dead exciting, and ultimately it's not our money, but it is. It will, as I say, it will be interesting to see how it all sort of starts to, whether it does level out when the dust settles come the end of the window, whether we're going to enter into a world where we're only 6 months to a year away from 100 million transfers being the norm rather than the outlier. Very interesting stuff, if nothing else. Let us know your thoughts then. Do you know, is this very much a case of just the clubs at the top of the league just going a bit silly to make sure they get the players they want, or could you see the transfer fees going crazy across the league, and is £50 million becoming the new £20 million or 10 million or 50, whatever? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the Ball Street channel if you want more stuff. The Fan League Cup is underway. My word. I'm involved in it for Ball Street, so stay tuned for Ball Street games, see how we get on. Arsenal Fan TV, full-time Devils, Creators FC, freestylers, Dan Cutton, etc. It's an amazing tournament. Stay tuned, subscribe, get on those videos, and we'll see you over there.